So I don't know how to introduce this at all. At all. I'm no podcast pro by stretch of the imagination.
You're doing
I mean,
great, buddy.
you're the radio guy here.
Do you want me to do like a radio introduction of
I
myself
would
or of
love.
you?
You can introduce the whole thing for all I care. You're the pro here. I'm the budding YouTube celebrity. You're the ESPN guy.
Well, I was given very little instruction of what we're doing, only to show up with a beautiful mountain background, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. But I
You're
am
doing great.
Brandon's good friend, Tim. I live in Peoria. I host a sports radio show, so he wants me to come on here and give this thing a little bit of credibility, and that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Yeah, that's all. That's all you're here for is we're using your name and plastering it every social media broadcast platform.
And I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. So here I am.
At least, hey, I'm here to use your star power to benefit my career.
I have no issue with that whatsoever. I would be upset if you weren't doing that. Even though I should warn you, I have no star power to offer.
It's fine. I'm sure you have like 5 fans that will be like, oh, he's on a podcast.
Yeah.
With a guy who doesn't show his face on the internet and just yells about how bad MLB The Show 20 is.
Well, don't worry. If you think that Brandon is ugly just by hearing him, wait till you get a load of me. So we're built for the podcast and YouTube medium, I suppose.
We have the faces for radio.
That's right. Yes.
I think my favorite thing is I've talked to you about this. I think you remember this show. We had the Woody Show out here, which is the only LA local morning show.
You've told me about that,
And-
yes.
Yeah. And the running joke is whenever they post like videos to their YouTube channel, generally like one of the comments will always be, "Holy hell, you guys are ugly." And the literal joke is, "This is why we do radio." Is like there's a reason why we don't have cameras.
Well, like, that's the thing, like, my co-host and he's a guy in his 50-something, and, like, he's, this out-of-shape dude that I don't think would be like, oh, my God, he's so handsome. And then you have me, who's 6'4", who's all gangly thin, except for a nice little pudge in his stomach, and, like, we got nothing going for us, but what we can do is we can yell about the Bears every Monday after they blow another game. So we look forward to that.
You got that the winter portliness going on.
Oh, yeah, but instead of winter, it's just my whole life. Yeah, it's like the skinny and fat in all the wrong places.
Yeah,
It's like that.
No, I get
yeah.
it. Especially with like being like anything above like 6'2", I feel like you kind of end up with like the gangliness. Like you never really see like a pudgy, portly fellow who's above 6'4".
No,
I don't
it
think
doesn't
any of
happen
those
often,
exist.
but believe me, I carry it. It's there. It all just goes into one place, unfortunately. I'd like just a little bit spread out, just sort of like push it down to maybe the thighs or something, but it doesn't work like that.
This is what happens when radio just comes into play. You're just like, oh boy.
Just storytelling. That's all it is.
It really is. I mean, the Midwest has been in the news lately, but I mean, nothing good. You got oh God, did we freeze?
No.
Oh no, we didn't. I mean, the Cubs get not the Cubs. The Cardinals get Arenado. The Cubs get jocked. The Lions sort of their QB. You got a plethora to talk
We got
about
a
on Monday.
ton of stories. Yeah, Friday was very good to us, and it was funny because the day before we were talking about the baseball offseason, sort of how slow it's been moving, and both of us were like, I don't think there's been a quieter team this offseason than the Cardinals have. And like we talked plenty of Cardinals, we're less than 2.5 hours away from St. Louis, so we're actually closer to St. Louis than we are to Chicago. But we're talking about the Cardinals, and we're like, man, like, they already said they're not bringing back Colton Wong, or at least not picking up his option. Yadi Molina, Adam Wainwright are still free agents. They're playing some sort of weird negotiating game with them. They haven't done anything. We haven't heard any rumors. And then 24 hours later, they re-signed Adam Wainwright. There's rumors that Yadi's coming back, and then they're in deep talks with Nolan Arenado. So, like, things just escalated very quickly. But I think, like, the Cardinals just realized, hey, wait a minute. No one else in this division is going to do anything even remotely competitive. Like, the Pirates are just tearing everything down. The Reds can't afford to bring anyone back. The Cubs have already said goodbye to a number of players. So the Cardinals are like, hey, you know what? We have a chance to really dominate this division for years. And that's what they'll do now with Arenado. I mean, Arenado and Goldschmidt is a duo that no other team in that division can match right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Brewers basically have Yelich on an island by himself with no help. The Cardinals bought. Reds rebuilding, Cubs rebuilding, and the Pirates are, I don't know what the heck they're doing.
And like
Nothing.
and here's the interesting thing with the Cubs too, and the Cubs, it was clear that they are in a rebuild up until like a day ago, because then suddenly they signed Jock Peterson. They have reportedly received the okay to expand the payroll and add some starting pitching. And I think there's a theory behind the specific pitchers that they're looking at. Now, I don't know if you saw, Brandon, but a few of the pitchers that they were interested in, they just signed Trevor Williams, but they were also looking into like Jeff Samardzija, Jake Arrieta. To me, I think it's them realizing that they've lost a little bit of their goodwill with fans, and a real cheap, easy way to bring that back is to say, hey, we know you're mad at us, but every fifth day you can watch Jake Arrieta back at Wrigley Field. Like, doesn't that make sense, though? Like, if I'm Tom Ricketts and I just had the offseason that the Cubs did, like, wouldn't it make sense to say, hey, you know what, if it means spending a few extra million to have the Shark and Arrieta back at Wrigley, I think it might be worth it.
For a year. I mean, worst case scenario is you get Jake Arrieta and, you know, the Shark. If both those guys have somewhat good seasons, you can sell them at the deadline to some poor schmuck of a team, probably the Angels, who will desperately need pitching again.
Yeah, like worst case. So best and worst case scenario, I guess, is best case you actually can get value for them at the deadline, which that would be amazing if you can actually trade a guy like Jake Arrieta at this point in his career and get value back for him. But worst case is you have them there for a whole year. You're paying nothing to get them. And I think fans are generally excited. Like, I don't think any Cubs fans are going to be like, yeah, this is the same thing as Jake Arrieta from 2015 or Jeff Samardzija from 2012. Like, no one's going to say that. But what they will say is, hey, it's kind of cool to see them back with the Cubs. I think I'd be interested in watching them. Like, I think more Cubs fans would like it than not, if that makes sense.
Isn't this the second year on their own network, or is this the first
second year? Yeah, the first year clearly did not go as well as they would have liked in terms of the pandemic and everything like that.
COVID.
But here's the funny thing, Brandon. I don't know if a lot of people realize this. They won the division last year. Like, it's not like
they won a terrible
but
division.
Still, regardless of how you feel about it, I mean, shoot, there were 4 teams from that division though that made the postseason?
Yeah, despite how bad it is, they somehow took both wild card spots and had a division winner. I mean, all of them got knocked out in the first round.
But that's the funny thing about them is that, you know, they're coming off of a division championship. If they wanted to say, hey, you know what? Like, no one else in the division's doing anything right now. This is, of course, before the Cardinals signed Arenado or traded for Arenado. But if they were like, hey, you know what? No one's doing anything right now. We're coming off of a division championship. Let's go after Trevor Bauer. Let's go after George Springer. Like, they could have totally tried to do that if they wanted to, but obviously there's been such devastating quote-unquote financial losses that they decided that a rebuild is more necessary. And I think long-term it's a good idea, but it's just funny how they're coming off of a division championship, and they absolutely could have signed George Springer and instantly put themselves in as a contender again.
Do you buy it? I'm curious. I mean, you look at like what the White Sox are doing compared to like the Cubs, who are in the same market. They're a couple blocks apart from each other. How is it that the White Sox can afford some of the guys they're getting, and the Cubs are like, oh, we're hemorrhaging money all of a sudden? Am I missing something here, or is it just smoke?
No, well, it's weird. Do I believe that all of these owners that are crying poor are in such desperate financial chaos that they can't afford anyone? Like, no. Ultimately, these 30-ish men all have the same solution to their problem, where if they're hemorrhaging so much money and they really can't afford to sustain it, guess what they can do? They can sell it and make $2 billion and walk away. Like that. Like, that's the worst case scenario for them. So no, like, I'm not going to feel bad about anybody with money. But, like, in terms of the Cubs sense, I do feel like there are some financial hardships. They invested a ton of money into Marquee Sports Network, and they only got 60 games out of it, which that hurts. Wrigley Field does get a lot of money on game days, not just at the ballpark, but also the neighborhood and everything. I mean, they invested over the last several years a lot of money into building up the outside neighborhood around Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I've seen that where you kind of get like that beyond the left field bleachers, like the high rises that have the classic, I forget what it's called, like bar seats.
Yeah, like the rooftop. Like they have the rooftop bleachers, but it's
Yeah.
not just that. It's the rooftop bleachers, but there's also, businesses that are all around there that basically, like, Ricketts bought a lot of this property in the hopes of, they're going to be making a ton of money because they're capitalizing off of a World Series. It's going to be sellout crowd each and every game. And like normally in a regular year, that's what it is. But in a pandemic season, you lose that. And I think it was him that said last spring that about 70% of their revenue comes from game day operations. Now,
I believe it. I mean, you and I listen to the Dan Le Batard show, and one of the luxuries is hearing Dave Sampson every single Thursday. And let me tell you, after listening to him talk, I have learned so much more about like the ins and outs of the business side of this game, to where like everything, anytime I hear any owner or any of these guys talk, it's like, oh yeah, Sampson said that. Like, oh, he's 100% right where it comes to like, yeah, do they get a lot of revenue from it? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about 70%, and again, I would love to be able to just pour into the books just to see how much money these teams actually make from game day, because again, so many of them have such massive television deals too that just provide a ton of money. But getting back to the White Sox, and because you asked how they're able to do it, well, I think every team is honestly able to do it. But the White Sox do still have a couple things on their side. Obviously, Jerry Reinsdorf is someone who that family does very well for themselves. They own another franchise in town, the Chicago Bulls. So they are able to bring in a good amount of revenue, but the White Sox are in a very enviable position to where a lot of their talent, when you look at Tim Anderson and Yoan Moncada and Luis Robert and Jose Abreu, all of those guys are signed to not only long-term deals already, but long-term deals that are probably well below their market value. Like they got Moncada, and particularly Luis Robert. I think Eloy Jimenez was another one too. But like they got Robert and Jimenez signed up well before they really started to break in every day as major league players, and they got them long-term deals that now, if they would have waited until let's say 2022 to sign them long-term, it would have cost them maybe twice as much. So I think that they got a huge benefit there to take advantage of their cheap, cost-controlled offense, invested their money into starting pitching, which is exactly what the Cubs did when they were entering their World Series window, when they had Bryan and Baez and Contreras and paying nothing for them, so they were able to sign a John Lester, if you will, to beef up that starting rotation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking at their payroll, and they have, so you were saying like Moncada and all them. Moncada is signed through, where'd it go? So like Luis Robert, let's go down the list. Luis Robert signed a 6-year, $50 million deal. Cheap, and he can opt out at the end of the 2025 year, making $15 million. Jimenez, who signed 6 years, 43, can also opt out at the end of the 24 season, only $13 million. Tim Anderson, 6 years, 25, but he can opt out at the end of 22, only $9.5 million. What was the other guy?
I know Abreu signed an extension not too long ago, but he's in his 30s, and he's not costing a lot of money at all, and coming off of an MVP year too.
So the most expensive guys on the books for them are Grandal, 18 and a quarter mil, and that's steady. Keuchel's 18 mil this year, next year. You're paying the reigning AL MVP not even $18 million this year. He's not going to make even over $20 million going into what would be age 36.
Yeah. So who on that list do you look at and you say, "Wow, that's an albatross of a contract"?
I mean, the only one that like really I would come to mind.
But even then, Grandal right now is a top 3 catcher in baseball. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're Angels fans, full disclosure. If I saw like the only Albert like black hole deals are short-termish deals that aren't $20 million, I'd be absolutely
No, the
ecstatic.
White Sox are in very good shape. Like we compare it to the Cubs, for instance, where the Cubs had a bunch of long-term, or the young guys signed, locked up, team control, but they had a couple albatrosses too. Jason Hayward is one that comes to mind, where Jason Hayward is a good player, but crazy overpaid. They gave Yu Darvish a huge deal, and that's a reason why Yu Darvish, after 2 really, really good years with the Cubs, is now at the Padres, because it was just a really large contract. Like you just said it, the White Sox don't have a single person that's making over $20 million.
Yeah, now the White Sox only have one, and it's Jason Hayward, who's making 21 this year and 22
the Cubs,
the next few
yeah.
years.
But
Yeah, Chris Bryant's just under that threshold at 19.5, and then Rizzo's at 16.5, and that dark hole closer Gray Kimbrell's making 16.
yeah, I mean, you look at right there, and then look at the value that the White Sox are getting from their guys, and look at the value that the Cubs are getting from theirs, and that's the reason why the White Sox are able to be aggressive and take advantage of a really timid baseball landscape where nearly 80% of the league doesn't want to spend any money and improve at all, and it's all worried about cost and trying to save their costs after a really bad 2020 year.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a really fun summer with the Cardinals and the Cubs and the White Sox.
It's nice when all three of them are good. Like it
enjoy that.
doesn't happen a lot though, where all three of them are actually good at the same time. I think this was the first time in years that all three of them were in the playoffs together. Of course, all three of them got bounced in the first round, which didn't really help us, like as a station, because we would have loved to be able to talk about that at carry games, etc. But I think this year, particularly for the White Sox, is going to be a really fun summer.
Especially with no dumb 3-game series first round. As much as I liked it,
do we know for sure if that is going to be back or not?
I don't know. There were weird reports that ESPN was negotiating with the MLB on a playoff round that doesn't exist yet. So I don't know if the next CBA, which is next year, they go for the DH and like an extended playoff and say like how
we
well
don't
it
even have a
works.
schedule though, right?
But
like they put one out in July before the 2020 season even started, but we don't know when spring training is. We don't know when the regular season is. We don't really know what the deal is. And pitchers and catchers, in theory, are reporting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's no. I don't. As far as we know, they're still like we're going for it, despite the fact that I'm sure you saw Maricopa County sort of like we'd rather you delay spring training. So I don't know if they're going to do kind of what they for the teams in the Cactus League, or if they're going to kind of be like, hey, you guys are going to we're going to do it in California again or something. Because, I mean, that's for the teams out here, like I'm in California, they can do it in California. We have enough stadiums down here in Southern California alone to where if we need to share, we're good. Between Anaheim, so the LA metro area, there's a handful. Anaheim, there's a couple. In an Empire, we got 2 out here. I mean, if they had to move it to California for a year, they could, and we have just as good weather as Arizona.
Better weather.
I think there's options.
Than that desert? Better. Sorry if there's anyone from Arizona listening, but Southern California weather is much better. Not even close.
I mean, if that's an option, we have it. I mean, they're minor league ballparks, but that's what they're playing at in Arizona. I think Camelback and I know the Angels complex is their rookie team complex. I think Camelback's the same, I want to say. So, I mean, they're used to it in the spring. You have these ballparks out here, like, they can use. They haven't been used in over a year. Just use them if we need to. Like, they're there. I know California's, who the heck knows what we're doing. But
Brandon, how are we going to fix the Angels?
It's right here. How are we going to fix it? Don't get me started.
That's why we're here. That's why we bought microphones, to have this conversation. That was the initial reason why you wanted me on, the host of a show on ESPN Peoria in Central Illinois, to talk Angels baseball. Are we going to get to it or what?
You want to
I
dive
don't
into
know.
that?
Listen, man,
All right.
like,
All right. Hold on. Hang on. All right. Let
are
me pull it up.
you
Hold on.
as just apathetic about them as I am? Because I'm really starting to just get to the point where it's like I care, of course, but at the same time, it's like, oh, what's the point of getting my hopes up for Trevor Bauer? What's the point of thinking that this team can actually be anything? Because it's basically the same thing every single year. And at some point, we have to take a stand as fans and just be like, man, I don't know how much more emotions I can put into this.
Here's my honest to God opinion. Angel fans are, and I say this with love as one, and it's probably because I'm on the Twitter, which gives me this opinion. I think they're the most bipolar fans.
In all of, I don't know about in all of sports.
I think maybe they're the most bipolar baseball fans I've ever dealt with. I don't know what it's like with. I'm sure maybe Cubs fans understand this, but the funny thing with, and I've shared you some of these tweets, is they kind of go through this weird thing of when anyone signs, like especially pitching, or like the Darvish trade, for example. I mean, I had the initial reaction to of like, wait, we could have given up those prospects. And now I will double down on that because I saw the Hop 100 for it. The Angels have two guys in the top 100. They're not in the top 50, but Brandon Marsh I think is 58. I think they have Reed Detmers is in like the 70s. I think
it's those two. So I think it's those two on MLB.com. Now I've seen others like Keith Law had Marsh in his top 40. So there's a little bit of variance there. I've seen some that have like Jordan Adams as a top 100 prospect.
So let's say they have three. Are you telling me that if they gave up, let's say, Marsh, they said, we'll give you Marsh, we'll give you like some guy a little bit low, like a reliever who's a little bit lower, and some other guy like off the roster, I don't know, insert random utility guy here. That stupid guy we got from Tommy La Stella. Let's say they throw him in there. Are you telling me that the Cubs wouldn't take the young athletic guy who they can throw in the outfield this year for Yu Darvish and like a couple pitching guys? Like, I saw that haul. That you're telling me the Angels couldn't have put together a better haul? I mean, I guess we can. Let me make this point while I'm at it. When it comes to prospects, I find ratings completely and utterly useless because we can rate these guys as high as we want. We don't know what they're going to do in the future. We don't know how they're going to react. I don't know the guy that the Rays got for Snell is going to pan out. He should, totally, but he could also blow his arm out and never pitch again. I don't understand why, like, there are some fans who will hold on to these prospect ratings like they're the holy gospel, and it makes no sense to me why they go, oh, this farm, like the Brewers farm system's absolutely garbage. Are you telling me if a team wanted to make a move, they couldn't get a move done? I find that completely ludicrous.
I think we as baseball fans are romantics. And part of that means romanticizing baseball prospects and whatever prospects that come up. I mean, Brandon, honestly, how often do you find yourself watching the draft every year in June? And as soon as the Angels pick someone, you're like, oh, that's going to be our next star. And you already start to like think about what it's going to be like in 4 years when they're in the middle of your lineup and how everything is going to be great and grand. I mean, the reality is most of these prospects are never going to amount to anything super substantial. Big leaguers, sure. But it's like the whole thing. I always like to reference the one quote in Family Guy, and I think you know where I'm talking about with this, where it's you can either take the boat or you can take what's in the mystery box. And they're like, Peter, take the boat. No. Okay. It could be anything in the mystery box. It could be a boat. Like that to me is the thinking of every single club in baseball where it's, hey, why would we trade for Yu Darvish when we have X pitching prospect? He could even be Yu Darvish. Like, chances are he's not going to be Yu Darvish. And it's one thing to be a rebuilding team like the Pirates or the Orioles or whomever, and you need to hold on to those prospects. You need to accumulate prospects because the more darts you have, the more chances you'll have on actually hitting. It's another thing to be the Angels. The Angels, and I've told this to you for years now, the day that they signed Mike Trout to that lifetime contract was the day that they
Was the
said, no matter what, we're in win now mode. They have to be. They have no choice but to be. And as much as we as fans want to believe that Joe Adell is going to become a top 10 outfielder in baseball, or that Brandon Marsh is going to be, the corner outfielder, first spaceman for the future, or that Reed Detmers is a top of the line starter, like all of these things, as much as we want to say that, the chances are they'll be fine, but not stars. If you have a chance to go and get a star player who can help you win right now, you do it. You don't have a choice. And I know it's so easy to say, well, we tried to do that with Jerry DiPoto and it cost us this and blah, 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 blah. Mike Trout is not going to be the amazing player he is forever. The window is shorter than we think. So if Yu Darvish costs 4 prospects who are teenagers, which is exactly what the Padres gave him, 4 teenagers, then you do it. You consider it, because at the end of the day, he gets your team that much closer to a championship, and this is the time to go for it. Every single year is the time to go for it when you have a player of Trout's caliber making the money he does in the situation that they're in right now.
No, you're absolutely right. So Trout's entering, I don't know how updated this is, but Trout's entering his age 29 year. We all know what he's making. I know we keep saying, like, the 2 black holes at first base and left field are the issue. 1,000%, Mr. lumbering around the base pads, age 41 pool holes.
Now, the good news is he's got a year left, and Upton's got 2 years left. So it's not like this is, this isn't Giancarlo Stanton with 8 or 9 years left on his deal. Like it's nothing
Thank
like
God.
that. So the end is in sight, but it's so interesting that even still with Albert Pujols with only a year left, that they're still going the 1-year deal routes, the route of, hey, you know what, let's take low risk and fairly low reward signings. Like, that's how they've built their starting rotation for years with Teheran and now with Jose Quintana this year. It's, hey, let's not take a lot of risk there and let's only do 1-year investments. It's what they're doing in their bullpen now. It's what they're doing at shortstop with Jose Iglesias. It's 1 year, but eventually you're going to be looking at an entire roster that you have to build almost exclusively from free agency, and that's not really a great recipe for success either. So I don't know sort of what the plan is or their end game, but yeah, I was shocked when I saw some of the signings that Perry was doing this year at GM, because it feels like a Billy Epler offseason again.
I have to find it, but I don't think I can. I can find it on my Twitter. I think you and I talked about it. I don't think it was in our chat, but where it was the Angels beat writer for the LA Times made an interesting comment here. Where is it? Hang on.
Is this the Maria Torres, Trevor Bauer one?
Yeah, not the article, but it was. Yeah, no, it was right before that where she made the comment. Oh God, I think it got buried. But she made the comment about. There was some comment she made where I said, if they believe their issues are if they believe the issues the Angels, if the front office has the belief that it's a quality of prospect issue and not the issue of the prospects. So if they think, so my thought process was this: if their belief is that we have arms but we don't have quality arms in the minors, that's a different issue than you saying we have quality, not quantity. So they believe they have quantity but not quality. And if that's the case, this team will not sign Trevor Bauer. They will not sign these big name guys, because if Perry came in and changed the thing and said, we don't have quality, we only have Reed Detmers and everyone else is absolute trash. If that's his mindset, you're not going to sign Trevor Bauer. That's off the table, because the Angels have the number 9 pick this year, which means in the second round, not the comp round, that's a whole other story, they have the 9th pick. They are not going to want to give up the 9th pick to the Reds, a rebuilding organization where they can get a potential high leverage guy when they can get it. They're not going to sign Bauer if Perry believes that it's a quality issue. You're not going to see the Angels compete for those guys anymore if they continue to this weird 81 sub 500 garbage and be in the top 10 picks. Like, they're not going to sign these guys. Yeah, they don't lose the first round pick, but they lose the second round. Where the last notable guy we got was Canning in the second round. Like, there's quality there. And if it's a high enough pick, they're not going to give it away. And that was the thought process I had when you're seeing her make these comments. And it's like, she knows more than we do. Not that I don't think that there's Angel Twitter guys who have sources. But, I mean, like, I remember the Lakers with Kawhi Leonard that summer and everyone thinking this one random dude who may have worked for whatever the agency was who said, "Oh, Kawhi's coming, guys.
God.
He's coming, trust me." Like, it almost feels like Angels Twitter and the guys who run it think they know things that beat writers who understand the actual ins and outs, who talk to these guys and know. It's almost like they think, "Oh, but this guy says this one thing and he says all you're saying is a lie." But it's like, you're talking to the actual guy. And Perry got the job. I don't know a lot about Perry. I know if he was with the Braves, was he with the Braves when they were doing, you might know this offhand, was he with the Braves when they were kind of rebuilding?
That's a good question. I want to say yes, because he has been with Alex Anthopoulos for a number of years, and I think he was previously with him in Toronto. So then he was hired in 2017, and maybe that's when Anthopoulos came over too. So that's it. It might have been like the tail end of their rebuild, but certainly with Toronto, I mean, he was there for about 8 years, so I think it makes sense that like he was part of some rebuilds. And I mean, he saw how Anthopoulos was able to sort of build the prospect pool up and build playoff teams on the fly.
Because if that's, I'm not saying, I guess I should, I don't think he's necessarily lying when he says, "Oh, I think we can win."
I think they can. But, like, I don't think that this is a bad baseball team as it's constructed, but it's just one that I think their ceiling is very limited because their acquisitions are, again, low risk, but also pretty low ceiling. Like, I don't know how Jose Quintana or Raisel Iglesias or Jose Iglesias, or I feel like there was another pitcher that they may have signed along the way too. Who was that?
Quintana.
I say Quintana, yeah, at the beginning, but like Quintana? Any of those guys, like I don't see a scenario where any of those guys all end up having career years, and more or less, like it takes career years from all of them for the Angels to contend for a division, because at the end of the day, they're still probably the third best overall team in the division.
As of now, they might be the second best team, only because Oakland's lost a lot, Houston lost a lot. So right now, I might have them above Oakland a little bit, but not by much. But I mean, the thing that scares me about Seattle is Seattle's got Kelenic and Rodriguez, and
Kyle Lewis, who was just the reigning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Kyle Lewis, and then they basically have another young outfield ready to go if they want to trade Lewis, because they got Taylor Trammell, they got Jared Kelenic, and they got Julio Rodriguez. Like, that's
Seattle,
horrifying.
Because of their not just quantity of prospects, but also quality of prospects, is very much in a position to have Kelenic come up, become a starter, and I think he could probably play and will be part of the Major League team this year. But have him, Lewis, as sort of the foundational pieces, and then trade into the rest of their prospect pool, kind of like what San Diego has been doing, and add veterans to the mix and become a contender that way.
Yeah, and we both know Jerry DiPoto's not shy
about making not at all. And I would imagine that that's exactly the mindset that they're having. Like, Seattle is not going to enter this upcoming decade with a core that has all of these minor leaguers. There'll be a couple, and I think, like, certainly Kelenic is going to be a big part of it. Maybe Rodriguez too, but he would be a heck of a trade piece if you want to land a real big fish at a trade deadline or something like that. But ultimately speaking, I think they're going to have a great mix of youth, but also just star players that they can trade for, and they're probably going to look particularly to trade for pitchers or to sign pitchers to use that prospect depth to acquire.
Yeah, no, yeah. But I'm while you were talking, I'm sort of looking at kind of what where when Perry came on board in Atlanta. When he came on board in Atlanta in 2017 was like the last bad year that they had, which was a last place finish or a second to last place finish in the East. I clicked off the page where or third place finish at 72-90. So he came on like that last year. So they had like Acuna, they had all beats at that point. Who did they take?
Like just probably about to begin their baseball careers. Maybe Albie's debut, but I didn't think Acuna debuted in 2017.
Well, I'm saying they had them in their system. It wasn't like they just picked him because they took Carter Stewart, who didn't sign that year, with pick number 8.
What I'm interested in, I want to go back a ways to when you were talking about how the Angels wouldn't go after Bauer because they lack quality, and I'm just trying to figure out like their rationale for not wanting to do that, to not want to say, to basically say, hey, we don't have quality in our farm system, so the idea of trading our farm system depth for a pitcher is pretty much out of the question. So wouldn't that then in theory make them more apt to go and sign a free agent starting pitcher because they can't pull out a trade for a Blake Snell or like a Herman Marquez, who's someone that Angel fans are gaga for and absolutely want Perry to try to swing a deal for?
Yeah. I mean, my logic would be, I think it goes back to what I was saying. My logic is because of how I think it's stupid, personally, how the MLB handles compensation for loss of free agents, because we're the only Major League Baseball is the only sport that does this, and I find it absolutely ridiculous that they do. Is how they essentially punish the big market, the teams that sign guys, by saying you signed Trevor Bauer, you lose a pick. I don't understand
it's to try to decentivize big market teams from stealing players from small market teams in a way. It's like how the NBA says that it allows teams currently have the upcoming free agent players to offer a year extra for more money.
I mean, I guess it's the weird compromise because we don't have a cap. The baseball doesn't have a cap per se, so it's the compromise there of, oh, if you sign star player here, you lose pick here. But I think it's sort of stupid, because I'll use the Angels as the example. Like the Angels last year signed Rendon, and they had the 10th pick, so they got the 10th pick they used on Denver's, but they didn't have the pick. They didn't have a second round pick this year, which was huge because there were only 5 rounds. So they had 4 out of 5 rounds drafted. So let's say COVID does something differently this year, and the draft's different because there's no I live in one of the hotbeds. There's probably no baseball this year for high school. So there's no way to scout high school talent. Tournaments aren't really happening here in California. College baseball probably isn't going to happen again in California. I don't know where it's going to be elsewhere. So we're losing so many guys in the hotbed of California, in this hotbed. How can you go in and say, we're going to do another, I don't know how many rounds there are, like 20 rounds of draft again? Like, that's not,
well, there's normally like, what, 40 rounds? Isn't that right? Yeah,
whatever it is.
It's a lot.
I think they essentially have to draft a whole team, because they have, for rookie ball or low A ball, you have to draft a full team, and you're not going to sign some guys, so they need to kind of draft these guys. If there's a case, and let's say Perry in the front office say, what if there's another, we don't get a full draft? What if it's another like 5, we have to do another 5-round draft? Then yeah, if your thought process is, we need quality, we can't we can't lose a pick again because if we have a high second round, we have a high pick throughout again. We can't lose it because that holds a lot more value in a 5-round draft than it does in a. If it's a 40-round draft, who cares? You're gonna lose, and 39 of those players aren't gonna do diddly bupkis. But if it's a 5-round draft,
I got what you're saying. Yeah, they're important. They're important players because you have
pick number 70 has a lot more weight. And if that's the case, and you're trying to kind of pull, I don't know how Alex Anthopoulos works. I'm not really a Braves fan. I'm not a Toronto fan. I don't know how he operates, but it seems like he's willing to make trades. I mean, he traded for Donaldson when he was in Toronto. That was a giant deal. I can't think of any giant deals he's done in Atlanta offhand, trade wise. But I don't know. That's my guess. If that report's right or her tweets are correct, that hey, he thinks it's a quality issue, or if they really do think Shohei's an ace, which okay, sure, he's got ace-like stuff. I watch enough foolish baseball. I know where this guy's good at. But if you're really that concerned about your farm system and everything else, sure, I can buy it that we'd rather not sign the long-term on Bauer because we don't know where we're going to get a comparable starting guy to go with him. I guess that makes sense. But I think from the perspective of fans, it's stupid because it's like, then where are you going to improve? You can't have it both ways where your farm system's bad, your signings are bad, then it's just bad. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to do anything. If you want to go with the logic of, we don't want to pay the money, okay, fine. I think it's stupid. I don't think you're in that position to be like, we're going to be coupon clippers. Like, that's stupid. It makes no sense because you're wasting years again. Like, you have Trout, you have Rendon, you're going to have offense. Go get the pitching. Like, would it be easier if you had Bauer and you knew for sure, like, we signed Bauer for 4 years, $100 million. That's only $25 a year. That's not terrible. It's not a high average salary, but that's not bad. Then, yeah, you can go out there and go try and get a German Marquez. I mean, I think you're going to have to take on probably Chuck Nasty's contract to get it done. Which is
or like
story.
Ian Desmond's albatross or something like that, because I feel like Charlie Blackmon still has value where Ian Desmond just has negative value to Colorado.
Like, you're gonna have to take something.
I would rather do that though. From the Angels' perspective, is I would gladly take on Ian Desmond's albatross, and I don't know how many years he has left, 2, 3, something like that. Yeah, you can look at that, but like, if it meant that they would trade fewer prospects or prospects that don't have as much value or upside, if it meant taking on Ian Desmond, I would do that in a heartbeat. And I think like the Angels need to have some of that mindset. And I know that it's hard for us to sit here and say, oh, well, they just need to spend more money and take on more money because like we're not Artie Moreno. Like we don't pay for Jack Bleep when it comes to when it comes to the Angels here. And obviously there are luxury tax concerns and do that, but at the end of the day, man, like you gave Mike Trout the greatest deal in Major League Baseball history. You kind of have to follow that up by saying we did that because we expect to win championships. And sometimes you got to say, hey, screw it, we'll go over the luxury tax, what the Dodgers are doing, and try to take advantage of that window. So yeah, we'll take on Ian Desmond's contract. Yeah, we'll trade for Yu Darvish. Like there are a number of things that I think they could have done that we could have looked and said, okay, now this team is ready to contend for a World Series, but it's spending money. It's spending money, but also being cheap at the same time. It's kind of like what Artie Moreno has done this offseason in Perry. It's
known for
if that makes sense. Like they're spending money, they're raising the payroll, but they're also being cheap. And cheap, lazy, and 1-year deals that won't affect them past this season. But guess what? It'll be the same thing. They'll win somewhere in the low 80s. Yep. Maybe they'll make the playoffs. Maybe they won't. It depends on if they expand the playoffs again. And then Trout will be another year older, and they'll just do rinse, wash, repeat.
What do you? So we were talking about what contracts they have to take on. How much money? I have the number in front of me, by the way. How much do you think Ian Desmond's making this year? And then I'll tell you what's left.
Well,
on
I know
his
Ian
contract.
Desmond opted out of the 2020 season.
Yep.
Well, I want to say he signed like a 5-year, $70 million deal, or maybe it was 5 years, 80 when it was
Correct.
when it was.
No. It's 5. It's 5 years. It's
Oh,
5
okay.
years.
So it
70.
was 5 years, 70. So that puts him at
17 through the 17 through 21 with the 22.
okay.
Team
So it's
option.
just 1 year on his deal.
Correct.
Yeah, because no team ever would pick up that option afterwards. So yeah, I'll take on Ian Desmond for a year.
What do you think this contract is, though?
What do you think this contract is, though?
His contract?
What do you think he's getting paid this year?
What do you think he's getting paid this year?
I wonder if they backloaded it. Maybe if they backloaded it, then perhaps it's like 25 million.
Less.
Okay, 21 million.
Charlie,
Let me rephrase this because you're gonna be shocked. Charlie Blackmon's is the highest paid Rocky at 21.5. Because assuming Nolan's gone.
So then is Desmond at 20 and a half?
Nope.
What's he at?
Nope.
8 million.
8 million.
If
If Baseball Reference is right, he's making 8
Oh,
million.
so they front loaded his deal.
yeah, he's making 8 million this year.
Yep, he's making 8 million this year with a $2 million buyout. If this is right, which I assume, I don't imagine why it wouldn't be. So I don't think Ian Desmond's potentially going to be going anywhere unless they really want to get rid of it. The two guys who are making the most now are Trevor Story and Jeff
Yeah,
Nasty.
so maybe it is more of a Charlie Blackmon salary dump, but still, doesn't it feel like he would have some value, or he would? I should say this, probably more value, just trading him like you just did Arenado, as opposed to throwing him into a deal with Marquez, right?
Potentially. I mean, he's still an elite hitter. I mean, the last full year he still put up 32-86, ball batting 314, slugging over 500, with an OPS of almost 1,000 again, all-star again. I mean, there's value there, but do you really want to pay $21.5 million to a guy who's 34 years old?
I mean, the Angels are kind of already doing that with Justin
That was
Upton.
my reason. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is, like, if you're in the Angels situation, you try to, or maybe it's one of those things where you might throw in a higher ranked prospect to get it done. Because if the Rockies are very much in the mood of we want to dump money, what a better way to get rid of $21.5 million in one deal and a team-controlled contract that is going to jump exponentially because Herman signed a 5-year, 43 backloaded contract. So next year he's making $11 million and then 15 the year after.
So let's put it this way. I would feel much better, obviously, by not parting with prospects, like top prospects, for a guy like Marquez, and as a result taking on like Charlie Blackmon's deal. Like, I would be more in favor of that. However,
It's not going to happen.
well, no, it's not going to happen. Of course, it's not going to happen, Brandon. But what I'm saying is, like, if it did cost Brandon Marsh as the centerpiece for Marquez, yes, I would do that in an instant. Because again, it goes back to the same thing that I've trying to been hashing here is they need to win now. They don't have a choice. It is their first priority, and they can't wait. They don't have time to wait for 3-4 years when Brandon Marsh starts to really develop into a really, really solid everyday starting Major League Baseball player to finally hit his ceiling. When Brandon Marsh hits his ceiling, and it could be an all-star ceiling, we don't know, but guess what? Trout will be like 34, 35 by then. Like, we just don't have time for it.
Let's start wrapping this thing up, and I just want let's wrap it up this way. Let's continue this trade thing because this is all we can really talk about as Angel fans is high hopes and trades.
I don't know if you want to, but
if you want to pull up the top, like their top prospect list, let's go about this because I'm looking at it. I can kind of put this together. Let's say all but 2 guys we can trade away. Put together your best package for whatever pitcher they've been linked to. Let's do this. Let's say they sign Bauer by some magic. Everything we've read about him not liking
Mickey Callaway.
Our pitching, Mickey Callaway, which, let me say this, by the numbers, it might hold some fortuity too, because his worst years were under Callaway. Whatever. If he's really that like annoyed that he throws curveballs, fine, sure. But let's say all that smoke and Callaway's like, if he wants to throw 99.999% fastballs, we'll let him. Let's say now we look at the trade market. Let's say keep 2 prospects you're not giving up, regardless of who we're getting, and everyone's available. Who are those two guys we're not letting go of?
Well, I think the easy answer is probably Marsh and Detmers. Right? Well, I know that's the easy answer because those are their 2 top prospects, but I would say, hey, listen, right off the bat, I'm going to go back to the Padres here because the Padres have done a great job of this. We're thinking about all the deals they've made. They've gone into every single deal and said, hey, we have Mackenzie Gore, we have C.J. Abrams, they're not going anywhere. Everyone else we can talk about.
The Dodgers have done the same thing historically, at least recently, because they got Manny Machado without giving up, who then I believe top prospect Gavin Lux at the time, and I believe, oh my God, was there somebody else who was top? Was it Buehler?
Well, I mean, yeah, they've had Buehler as a top prospect. They've had Lux as a top prospect. Seager was a top prospect a long time ago. Like, they've had all those, and they said, hey.
But how somehow magically they haven't been able, they've been like, everyone's available, but for the longest time, like, now it's Gavin Lux.
The Dodgers and now the Padres have been able to do that and get away with it because they are taking on big money pitchers. Yes, lots of money. Like, the Dodgers have had no hesitation about taking on big contracts. That's why they got Mookie Betts for what the industry considered to be nothing. No respect to Jeter, no disrespect to Jeter Downs, but like, because they took on David Price's contract, they didn't have to give up prospect capital. Because the Padres were doing the Cubs an absolute favor by taking Yu Darvish's entire contract off their hands, that's how they could part with 4 teenagers who I think that the top of them was like 7th or 8th on their top 100 prospect list, or top 30 prospect list. So like that to me is what the Angels should have been doing and what their mindset should have been, where they should have been right there with Darvish, where they should be right there looking at teams who have big money to starting pitchers that are maybe regretting those deals a little bit and saying, hey, we could take that off your hands and as a result not have to give them Marsh or Detmers or Adele or whomever.
So the one thing, like, I don't know if that was your easy answer. I mean, I kind of agree. Like, I'm actually okay with parting with Marsh. I think because he's 23, it's now or never for him. So I'm okay with parting with Marsh. He's probably like the one guy I'm like, you can take him off.
I should probably say real quick, the one reason that I still had Marsh there is because he is not just ranked so high, but he's ready to contribute immediately. And I think so Detmers is by far and away the team's best pitching prospect in the organization, so he ideally would stay. And then Marsh is ready to contribute as soon as this year. So I'm intrigued by someone like Jordan Adams and by Jeremiah Jackson and whoever, but at the end of the day, like, those guys aren't still going to be around for a couple years. And again, everything I'm thinking about is win now, win now.
So I mean, if you were, I think realistically, if we're playing the game of let's try to get Herman and like Charlie Blackmon, which I think's probably somewhat likely at this point. I think if you here's my package. Jordan Adams, Jeremiah Jackson, and Jeremiah Jackson, and I'm gonna go down here for a second here, and our local boy, Chino Hills legend, Adam Sermaris would be what I would give up.
Oh, Adam Seminaris.
Seminaris, yeah. Iowa High School legends.
So you gave 2 hitters and a pitcher. I think probably if I'm Colorado, I ask about Chris Rodriguez, who past Detmers is their top
That's
pitching
fine.
prospect. For Marquez, I'm probably okay with that. Rodriguez is 22 years old, and while there has been like some talk, he's got a decent fastball, and he's been one of those like rising prospects. Again, potential, but if this is Herman Marquez, I think you absolutely do it. You say any pitching prospect minus Detmers is on the table. Any hitting prospect. And if it's deal or no deal and Marsh is the one, I think you probably say goodbye to him. So I'd have Detmers as my one quote-unquote untouchable in that sense.
Yeah, because I think my opinion is between Marsh and Adams I think those two are sort of interchangeable. Like if you're like it's Detmers and Adams or Detmers and Marsh, whatever. They're Adams is 21. Is 21. Marsh is 23. I mean, I guess the only real issue is Adams further away.
Well,
than
yeah.
Marsh.
I mean, Adams, I don't think has played higher than high A, right?
Yeah, they said advance A, and he lost a year, so he's going to be that much.
Right. So it's still a couple years. He's going to be an outfielder, which you still have Trout there. Upton's there for a couple years. At least with Marsh, there is some talk about him at first base, or at least they're trying it. So that's why I gave Marsh the slight nod over Adams as far as who I would rather keep in the very short term. But if you ask me like the package that I would give Colorado, I would probably also be okay with Adams, but I would try to center my package around Chris Rodriguez, as I mentioned. I would probably go Rodriguez. I would throw in Deshaun Knowles, who is a guy who is young. He's 20, still a few years away, but I think has a lot of upside that would intrigue a team like Colorado. And then see if there's a couple other lower-end prospects. I think Seminaris is a decent option. And I have no idea what the deal is with Kevin Maitan. Do you remember how exciting it was when the Angels were able to pry him from Atlanta because he was like their top international prospect?
Yeah, he's
a little bit puts it very lightly, dude. He's lost a lot of his luster.
Well,
but
the whole thing, I think the whole thing with him, and this is gonna sound weird, is I think when we got him, in my opinion, I was sort of like he's still oddly blocked. Because where is he going to go? Like, I mean, I guess it comes down to where do you want Fletcher to be? Do you want Fletcher to be the shortstop? I assume Fletcher's
good. No, I think Fletcher's going to be your second baseman. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess he's the shortstop of the future. But then you got Jeremiah Jackson.
Yeah.
So I think
because Maitan, he's done at shortstop. He's played mostly third now with some second base in the last year. I mean, Rendon isn't going anywhere, and second base presumably is David Fletcher. So yeah, like, and that's a guy, like, if I'm Colorado, I'm like, okay, well, he was once considered a pretty decent prospect. Take a flyer on him. I don't think that that's a terrible deal there. So I give him a decent pitching prospect, and then I give him a couple guys that are young that have raw potential that a rebuilding team like Colorado may want to take a chance on.
Yeah, I just want to make the note here in case there's some like weird guy who's like very into Rockies prospects. I assume Tim's aware too of Brandon Rogers, who's been a future stars in MLB The Show for the last decade. I'm aware he's still there. I assume he's playing third this year.
There is an opening at third base now, Brandon. That's right.
They have Brandon Rogers.
There's an opening.
I want to put that out there that he's probably going to be playing third, if not somewhere else, because I'm going to make the bold prediction here. You can write this down and send it to Freezing Cold Takes. I'm going to make the wild guess that Story and Chuck Nasty are going to be gone by
both of them.
Just saying. I listen. Story's a free agent the end of the year. Sure. Pull a Santana and give the team like 48 hours to negotiate a deal with him and then pull the trigger. Man. Like they're come on.
I'm thinking that they try to extend Trevor Story personally. Think so? Yeah, I do.
Think so?
I think that they want to maybe explore that early
you
on,
sell that
and
to
then
him?
if it doesn't work, then perhaps he's trade deadline bait. But I think that they would like to extend him long term. Blackmon, I could absolutely see, because you're right, $21.5 million or so is kind of a lot for a team that really isn't going anywhere right now.
I'm just curious. Do you think, in terms of Rocky stars, do you think it hurt more for them to trade, if you're a Rockies fan, Arenado to the Cardinals or Tulowitzki to the Blue Jays? And I mean, you and I are Tulo homers.
Yeah, I've loved Troy Tulowitzki. Guys, actually, when I was cleaning out my basement yesterday, I found my old Troy Tulowitzki jersey, so that was nice. So I could start wearing that in public again. Are you saying what hurt more? I would say probably. I would say maybe Arenado. I would say Arenado, especially because like Arenado was the one that they signed to like the big long-term deal, and he was someone who played every single day. At least Tulo, there was like injuries and things like that were maybe a little bit frustrating. But Arenado was career Rocky, played 155 games pretty much every single year, Gold Glove every year, All-Star, just consistent. Really like the face of that team for the entire 2010s. So yeah, I would say Arenado. Plus, he's in the National League. It's not like you're sending him to a different country like they did with Tulo.
Well, I mean, you kind of are at St. Louis. Like, no one really.
At least it's America. At least it's U.S. of A. here.
Are we really playing the game of Tulo got shipped off to Canada, so therefore it doesn't hurt as much? You banish him
if
to
the
the
Angels
Great White
ever
North.
traded Mike Trout, it would hurt a lot less for him to go above the Canadian border than it would for him to get traded to, like, I don't know, pick any other team, any other American team. Like, it would help. It would help a little bit.
Fair enough. No. I find that analogy funny that he got shipped off to Canada. Like,
Yeah,
that's a
it's
punishment.
true.
I didn't know you had such a weird
I love Canada, but if you're asking me what I think fans would rather have, like, I think that seeing Arenado in the National League in St. Louis is going to sting a lot more than when they traded Tulo to an American League team that played in a different country.
That's true. That's true. I just I mean, you're right. You're probably
No,
right.
I'm right.
I just sort of found that funny. Like, it hurts less because he got sent to
I
Canada.
know I'm right.
Okay. Fine. You win
did
the
it.
argument.
Woohoo.
Congratulations. You finally won an on-air argument.
I've been doing the
I don't know
show
who you went
for
on.
like 4 years, and this was the first time I've ever won in a debate. It's awesome. Feels good.
It's that width that doesn't give you any
Yeah.
power.
One day I'll get my and. One day.
Can I ask you this, and I understand you and I listen to the same major radio show. Like, do you kind of feel for Stu Goss when he talks about the width versus the
I
and a
do,
little
but I
bit?
also understand why they would have the width. Yeah, I
branding
understand the
aspect.
branding aspect as well. I do feel for him because at the end of the day, like, it was his station. Like, he created the station, and it was...
Yeah.
The show started with him sort of leading it and captaining the show in the first chair before they switched, but he was always the width. So, and meanwhile, like, I jumped on my show several years after it had already been on the air. So for me to just come in, swoop in, and get an and in there probably wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Hey, I'm here to help negotiate you with a better contract with the mothership ESPN and my former employer Disney.
No,
I am here to help
that.
you.
You're doing a great job, by the way. I expect my raise very soon with you negotiating on my behalf.
Done. What do we need? Do we need more vacation time? More
Yes.
better benefits?
Just keep going. Keep going.
Yes. Okay.
Company car.
Uh,
Company car, or at the
sorry?
very least, reimbursement for any gas.
yeah, reimbursement for any gas, and we'll get you like a nice Greg Cody Scoops contract with like your local paper.
Or
You
at
can
the
write some
very
articles, too. How
least,
about
well,
that?
no, that sounds like a lot of work. But at the very least,
Wait, what about a podcast? We'll get you your own podcast. We can start we'll give you your own
free
podcast.
food at any remote that I do. Whenever I go to an event, free food.
Hold on. No, hold on. I got one better. You get the free food, but also you get to do one trip to the mothership every year.
Done. That's perfect.
company.
Yeah, and eat at the
Done. There we
ESPN Bristol
Because
buffet. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. You get to go to the amazing cafe and get to sit down across the way from Stephen A. Smith, even though I think he's in the
Yeah, you would be right, but still, I'll settle for like Randy Scott or whoever would be in Bristol. Kevin Nagandi. If I could see Kevin Nagandi eating his morning oatmeal,
no, it's Pablo Torre.
I'll take that too. Whoever.
But you have to talk to him all the highfalutin music.
I'll accept that. Again, any of that is just a bonus at this point. If I could just eat at that delicious buffet.
Yeah. Do they really have a buffet?
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of curious because I worked at Disney, and let me tell you, when it came to food at Disneyland, all we had were Subways.
Well, Brandon, as you know, I interned with NBC Sports during the Olympics. And I was at their headquarters in Stamford for a month, and I think it's called commissary. Their commissary is just delightful. Mm-hmm. Like chefs preparing all this stuff, like fresh. It's really, really good. So I imagine that the corporate ESPN would have something even better than that.
Something to that effect. Well, here's what was funny, and we'll let you behind the magic curtain here. That is Disney. Apparently, the company that they have a deal with, at least here in Anaheim, was co-owned, founded, finagled by Magic Johnson, and apparently Magic Johnson has Subway stock or something. I don't know, but but we have like a cafeteria that has like actual, like, I don't want to say cooks per se on site, but you know what the best meal I ever had at Disneyland was? While I was working there backstage.
I'm trying to
know
think.
what it was?
Was it the gumbo at New Orleans Square that they make in the little bread bowls? No. Okay, that's delicious though.
No, I'm not.
Was it the Dole pineapple whips?
Like, on stage is totally different. You're missing this whole point of what's backstage food.
Mickey Mouse pretzels.
Food. I'm not talking like. No, it was chicken tenders from one little plate from one cafeteria that was near a parking lot, and it was the best chicken tenders I've ever had.
Oh man, you're getting me hungry.
Let me take that back to the bank. The millions of dollars ESPN and Disney have, and the best thing they can muster for cast is chicken tenders. Hey man, listen,
a well executed chicken tender is about as good as any other food out there right now. I know you want to poo-poo it, but it's not. It's very good. It can be very good.
Especially when like the chefs like we had, it was either vending machine or chicken tenders, and let me tell you, I will take chicken tenders.
Amen, brother.
Any day of the week. And mind you, where this location was near one of the hotels.
Sounds good to me. I don't know why you made it seem like it was such a bad thing with the chicken tenders.
I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, you're near a hotel. Can we kind of, like, I don't know, up it a little bit? Like, can we get some of that leftover gumbo that they're going to throw out?
You want to up it and fancy it up by eating people's leftovers.
Not leftovers. I didn't mean it like that.
I'd rather fresh chicken tenders than leftover gumbo.
You make it seem like I want to dumpster dive. You make it seem like I want to go dumpster diving. I don't want to go dumpster diving here for, like,
that's what the California
scraps.
Adventure employees have to do.
I wouldn't know. I don't know anything. I don't know what California Adventure does. They're more open than Disney.
Are they really? Is there a difference between the two, like in terms of how open they are?
What do you mean? For California Adventure, they opened up Buena Vista Street, so you can go up, I think, to Carthay Circle. That's open. They haven't opened Main Street for Disneyland yet. They should. I don't know.
You might have sources. You might have people still on the inside.
I have one guy who still works there. Or no, one. I have one, and I really don't talk to him, who still works there. Everyone else is left. I was going to say I had one other guy, but who was a lead.
All right, well, I'm going to go eat some gumbo now out of a bread bowl with some chicken tenders on the side. You've inspired me.
I don't know what I'm going to do for lunch. I think I'm going to have a sandwich or something.
Delightful.
All right. Well, it was fun hanging out with you for the last hour.
I didn't think we were supposed to go this long, but I'm just along for the ride, my friend. Listen, you get me talking about Herman Marquez and just I unzip.
Hey man, hey man, it'll be a twofer. We'll have part 1
Yes.
and part 2. You know, I didn't even ask for a home and home.
When I get my
asked for the home and
podcast
home.
going, we'll do a home and home. How's that sound?
Write it down because
I
I'm
will.
negotiating your next contract, so I need to have this built in. We need
I
capital.
will, amigo. You got it.
Done. All right. This is episode 1. I don't know where we're going with this. Do you want anything? Do you want to plug anything?
For those that are interested in all things Central Illinois sports, the Jim Matson Show with me, Tim Van Straten. It's with, one day we'll get an and, but right now it's with Tim Van Straten. Is every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time. You can listen, assuming that you're not in Peoria, you can listen at espnpeoria.com. You could hear me and my co-host talk about Cubs and Fighting Illini and all of those things. But if you want to get the Angels talk, I think I'll just be right here on the video with Brandon.
Yeah, that's about it. So, Tim, thanks for hanging out here on this hopefully somewhat warmer Sunday afternoon in Illinois than it is.
Oh, I got to shovel snow outside, buddy.
Enjoy
so not quite.
Oof. Well, yesterday I saw my breath in my car, so you know what? Maybe we're both in misery.
All right, talk to you later.
All right. Well, go have fun shoveling. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your
All right,
bundle of
miss you,
chicken
man.
tenders.
Bye.
You too, buddy. See you next time.